Media representation of the Indian farmers protest. Hello everyone, my name is Jashanpreet Singh and today I will be discussing this Indian farmers protest through the lens of Stuart Hall's media representation theory. I will explore how this historic movement was differently portrayed by mainstream Indian media, international news platforms, and independent sources. So, what is Stuart Hall's theory of representation? Stuart Hall argued that media doesn't just reflect reality, it constructs it. In his concept of the politics of significance, Hall explained how dominant ideologies are embedded in media representations. According to Campbell, Hall saw representation as powerful tool that helps the dominant class maintain its influence by shaping meaning and public understanding. Now, overview of the farmers' protest. In 2020, farmers in India launched a massive protest against three agriculture laws they believed threatened their livelihoods. They feared that government deregulation would leave them vulnerable to exploitation by large corporations. The protest was largely peaceful and sustained for over a year, gaining support nationally and globally. So, media framing in India. Indian mainstream media like Republic TV or Zee News often promoted a preferred reading of the protest. Protesters were labeled as extremists or anti-nationals. These portrayals align with Hall's idea of dominant ideology, presenting dissent as a threat to a national stability. The coverage of reinforced the government's stance and diluted the legitimacy of the farmers' demands. Oppositional readings, international and independent coverage. Oppositional readings were evident in reports from Al Jazeera and The Wire. Al Jazeera's article, The Human Cost of India's Farmer Protest, emphasized the emotional and physical toll, including the death of over 700 protesters. This article humanized the farmers and criticized state violence. Independent media like Livewire published voices directly from the protest sites. In a postcard from Singo border, the protest space is described as a blend of resistance and community, complete with libraries, clinics, and communal kitchens. These nuanced portrayals resist the dominant framing and support Hall's notion of negotiated or oppositional readings. Constructing meaning through representation. Hall's encoding and decoding model fits very well here. The Indian government and state media encoded the message that the protest was unlawful and chaotic. However, the decoding process was diverse. International media decoded it as a democratic uprising, independent media decoding it as an emotional people-led movement. The role of power and ideology. Campbell notes that Hall's theory reveals how representation supports systems of power. In this protest, the Indian government's alignment with the corporate interests was reflected in the media coverage. The protests were re-signified depending on the ideological bias of the platform. Dominant readings maintained state legitimacy, oppositional readings empowered the farmer's voice. So, at the conclusion, to conclude, the Indian farmers' protest serves as a prime example of the Stuart Hall's theory of media representation. It demonstrates how the same event can be constructed multiple ways depending on the sources, ideology, and intention. Representation is never neutral, it is a side of struggle. Thank you for watching.